Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. Before we jump into any analysis here, as the NASDAQ is dropping 100 points off the open in the first 30 seconds. So, welcome to the stream. I just want to direct your attention to the risk disclaimer at the bottom of the stream. Trading futures is risky. Trading any asset is risky. Nothing that you see on the stream should be misconstrued as financial advice. And the stream is delayed by about 5 to 10 seconds variable behind live. So anything you see me doing live on the stream has already happened in the past. So with all of that out of the way, the very first thing that I want to say before I jump into any type of analysis, good morning, Nick, is that there is a lot of headline risk, both today and in this week in general. I want everyone to be very cautious when you are trading. Size down if you are able. You may need to use wider stops. If you can't use wider stops or you have tight risk parameters, this may not be the week for you and/or a week to watch and observe. If you are trading main contracts, it might be worth switching to micros. If you're trading multiple micros, it might be worth switching down to just one. So that being said, the main headline risk today comes around 1 o'clock. The market may already be responding to that. Secretary Bassett is considering or going to speak around 1 p.m. Central Time towards what was a bad reaction by the bond market last week. They decided to try to step in to attempt to fix what is a bond market that the federal government is not happy with what it is doing right now. And the market did not respond well to their attempted intervention. So it looks like they are going to try to swing with a bigger bat. I'm not sure how the market is going to take that. I saw that bonds were up just a little bit this morning. That is at the edge of what my sort of financial knowledge is in terms of like all the different moving pieces. But I do know that anytime there is financial intervention by the federal government, the market can respond in very violent ways. We just saw the NASDAQ here open up with about a 30-second 100-point candle to the downside. So head on a swivel. Could be a very, very bumpy one. We also have NVIDIA earnings in case we need anything else to settle and calm the market this week. Those happen at the end of the close on Wednesday. We also have, in case we can't possibly squeeze any more volatility into this week, we have Jackson Hole, which is a Fed meeting where the Fed meets to decide on rates and give kind of a general overview of the picture going forward. In the past, historically, with Fed Powell, there were some very, very large moves, both leading up to Jackson Hole as well as coming out of Jackson Hole. Sometimes those have marked even large pivot points on long-term charts. So it is going to be a bumpy week. I'm going to be here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for all of it. But I just wanted to say that out loud before we jump into any other type of analysis. I want you guys to be safe. I don't want anybody to get hurt in the volatility if we can help it. So let's jump in and see where the NASDAQ is sitting on a higher time frame. I'll let this chart load here real quick. So last week we were all the way up at 300 points above 30K. During the Globex session for the first session last week, we started to sell. We consolidated in the middle of the week. We sold a little bit more, and now we have kind of drifted lower and out of last week's value. We're now trading back down into the up move from the first part of August. There's a little bit of volume here. There's like a volume node here at like 28,920. If we start to get momentum to the downside, that would be kind of the first place that I would look for. Maybe a potential bounce is somewhere in the 900, 28,900 region. There's also this kind of double top here back at 28,730. All of those are like 200 to 400 points away from price. The NASDAQ, I think, is down about 1% right now. It is already trading extremely violently here off the open. So you can see in the overnight session, we had a very large range. So the high is 29,480 all the way down to what is our current low here at 29K. So you're talking about a 400 to 500 point range overnight. So volatility is going to be pretty high. There was a cluster of buyers that I thought maybe they might try to hold here at 164. So if I scroll my depth of market down, 164. So it's this kind of little cluster of buyers here from the overnight. There's like a 123, there's 100, there's another 163, and there's 100 here. But they absolutely just knifed that right off the open. There was another big buyer that showed up during RTH here at 185. So some size already getting thrown around pretty early. Um, as you know, if you do watch the stream, and if you don't, what I do is I wait for the first 30 minutes to settle in, set the opening range high and the opening range low for the first 30 minutes, and then decide where I'm going to be trading. I would say that I'm leaning slightly bearish with us down 1%. The other thing to sort of keep in mind, which makes this week a little bit challenging, is that we have this volatility risk coming around 1 p.m. with Secretary Bassett's speech, and see what he's going to do with the bond market and how the market is going to respond to that. So you have a kind of an immediate volatility event here on the horizon. Then you also have Nvidia earnings on Wednesday. And so the market may not want to get like too far away. Like it may not want to sell too far. It may not want to rally too far. As we go into that event, people don't want to be caught sort of like offsides, one direction or another. Uh, so that's something to consider as well, that we may not just like get super directional as we go into this, until it could just be a week of sort of like whipsawing around until the market gets a clearer picture. It's just a lot of different moving parts for everybody to digest. Let's take a look at, let me just pull up here on my phone and we'll see where all of the indexes are sitting for today. So the Nasdaq is down just about 1%. ES is like down like 0.25%, and the Dow is flat. Bitcoin continues its rally. I think that makes a lot of sense. We saw Bitcoin rally last week in response to the federal government stepping in to try to support the bond market. I think with more of that news coming out this morning, it makes sense that rally continues. Gold is up 1%, silver is flat, and the VIX is up 5%, which makes sense since we just had about a 125-point move off the open for the Nasdaq. Let's take a look at the S&P's top holdings this morning. So most of what's up, Amazon is in the mix, but most of what is up are all what I would consider safety stocks. Most of them are Dow stocks. You're seeing stocks like United Health, Disney, Visa, AT&T, and Home Depot leading the way. To the downside, Intel is down almost another 4%. Nvidia is down 1%. Everything else is about flat in between there. So you're kind of seeing a bit of a drift into Dow stocks and a little bit of selling in tech, as people are probably unsure about what this week is going to bring, and that typically puts a bid underneath what I would consider safety stocks. So that's kind of where we're at right now. This is incredibly volatile already. You're already seeing multiple buy imbalances showing up here off the open. So size is really getting thrown around. You're seeing aggressive delta zones as sellers are really pushing through the lows here. 29K is going to be on deck here pretty shortly if the momentum continues. So I expect today to be quite volatile. I'm going to trade quite carefully. I will be sized down from my typical 3 contracts, micros, and a 20-point stop, to 2 contracts and a 20-point stop. If it looks like it's going to be even more volatile than that, then I'll size down to 1 contract. So that's what I see this morning. Feel free to hop in chat, ask any questions, tell me what you're trading. Yeah, that's where we're at this morning. That was just a bunch of people just waiting to hit the sell button as soon as 8:30 rolled around here Central Time. Like no hesitation at all. This first candle, 8:30. Can't even call this 8:31. I don't even think it's going to show me milliseconds here. Oh, that's why, because I'm on a 1-minute chart. Let's fix that. was popping around this morning. I was like, why does this chart look so weird? Let's switch this back over to my usual 500 vol chart. There we go. That makes a little bit more sense. That's a 100 volt chart if I can click the right one. Boy, it is a Monday morning, isn't it? There we go. Just a little bit more granular on the time frame there. So lots of volume already being done off the open. You can see how many candles we've already put in here. Multiple imbalances. There's one here at 150 that they just rejected. Note that our opening range is already about 200 points on top of what was a very volatile overnight session too. So 150. Right, so there's a 500 contract imbalance there at 150. And there's now a sell imbalance down here. Put your seatbelts on. That's what I got to say. You know, and I think if you're a newer trader, you know, these type of environments can be sometimes, you know, you look at how much it's moving around and you start thinking about how many points you can make. If you've been trading for a long time, you see it moving around this much and you think about how many points you can lose. So, you know, I like, and we talk about this on stream, as a day trader, you need and you want volatility, right? For any of you who haven't traded like a 50 to 100 point daily range on the NASDAQ, you absolutely want volatility. It is so hard to make money when there's not volatility. But there is sort of a like bell curve there where like somewhere in the middle of like just enough volatility is really good and no volatility is really bad, and way too much volatility is also really bad because it's just really, really hard to trade. And um, it's just super easy to lose a bunch of money really fast in super fast and high volatility. So I'll probably be saying this multiple times throughout the week, but I will continue to say, please be careful. I'm not sure that the market is telling Secretary Bassett that they're happy about um, his idea for the bond market this morning. And we still have, I mean, his speech isn't until 1 o'clock. I don't know if they're going to like pre-release it. Sometimes they do for some of the different Fed speakers. They'll sometimes release the speech like all as like one sort of like news article ahead of time. But if it's a live one, unless you are like deeply in the money when he starts talking, I would not be in position. Just I'm going to pop down here. I want to see how fast this is trading, and I want to see what the liquidity is like. So the liquidity to me still looks mostly okay. Like you're still seeing 3s, 4s, and 5s close to price here on the NASDAQ. So we have enough liquidity, which is good, which means that if you get stopped, you're probably not going to get a ton of slippage unless you're trading a lot of size, which I have already mentioned that you probably shouldn't be doing today. Just noticing that 80 contract order making its way down. Wow, there goes 29K. There's a big buyer that was waiting down there. But you see multiple big orders chasing price down. So what I look for when I'm looking for like, is the liquidity quote okay? You know, I'm seeing, first, I'm not seeing any holes or like any empty prices where there's nobody bidding or offering, right? So we have, you know, there's one right there. You can see it just barely there at 92 and a quarter. There's nobody. Now there's one contract there. So you don't want to start seeing holes in the depth of market when you're trading, because what happens is that price can just move. You know, it's basically just an air pocket. there's no bids, there's no offers there, and price can just move super fast. Every once in a while like can just happen, but you don't want to see that like multiple ones showing up at different times. That's indicative of there not being enough participants, and it will make price, ironically, like price is moving quickly, and so people, that's where the holes come from, and then the holes in the depth of market make it go even faster. So it kind of just feeds on itself. But right now it looks still like fairly healthy liquidity, although we are moving quite fast. But I'm still seeing, four, fives, threes, sevens and eights a little further from price in terms of how much people are bidding for this market. If you start to see things where it's like holes in the and gaps in the depth of market, and say everything surrounding it is like ones and twos, and then some air pockets pretty near to price, that's usually a good time to take your hands off the wheel. So I think it's pretty clear that the equities market has an opinion on what they called, I don't know who checked his speech before he said it yesterday, but I think the words were economic D-Day, in an attempt to strong arm and twist Iran's hand into uh, opening the strait and listening to whatever the US's demands are. So I don't know if the market is showing right now that they have a lot of confidence in that approach, but as I've said on the stream before, I keep an eye on the news, but I care most about what the depth of market is doing. I care about where there are big buyers and sellers, but you just cannot go into a week like this and not know what the sort of like headline risks are. Nvidia, Jackson Hole, the speech here from Secretary Bassett, interventions in the bond market. You don't have to be like a, economic expert to be a day trader, but you do have to know sort of like volatility things and like what's going to move the market around. You don't need to have a strong opinion on what those things are going to do. You just need to know that they're happening so that you can trade appropriately, not be caught, as they say, with your pants down. Buyers with a little bit, just a little relief bounce here. That was pretty violent off the open. Just went straight to 29K. So, the real risk, I think, this is pretty thinly traded. This rally from the first week of August, if anyone remembers, I think I traded maybe both of these sessions, maybe live. And they were what I would almost call like a lockout rally. Like it just didn't really pull back. We just kind of like, it was just almost straight buying all the way up. So when you get back into moves like that, you don't have kind of a lot of overlapping hourly candles. You don't have a lot of sort of consolidation happening. Price can move very quickly when it goes back through those areas. You start to wait for, I would wait for kind of this swing low, which is down at like 830, 840, 28, 840. I have to start, we're like moving through different 1,000 point markers on the NASDAQ. So I have to start actually reading the full number. So yeah, 28,840 to 28,760 is kind of a little bit of a zone. There's some tops here. There's this little like wick here. I'll zoom in just a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about. There's this little wick here, which was like just the attempt at going higher and then a rejection and then put in a wick lower, and we rallied off of that. So this is kind of an area in here that I would look for potential support. In the meantime, as we kind of go through this like thinner volume here and not very many overlapping candles, I don't think it takes very much for sellers to sort of knife through that area. But for the time being, they're going to try to hold this in balance here at like 28,995, just under 29K. So about 10 minutes until the opening range is set. I'm going to be pretty cautious this morning. This little like consolidation bounce area here is like 995. So it's like 40 points. This little tiny bit of this move is 40 points. So very, very fast, and it is very, very angry right now. And as I was kind of talking about in terms of like, seeing holes in the depth of market and liquidity is that, when things start to whip around like this, it sort of just feeds on itself, right? Like a lot of people start trading less size, so then there's even less liquidity on the depth of market, so then it moves faster. There's some people who don't actually even like to trade during sessions like this, so then they just don't participate at all. People are selling stocks like Intel and Nvidia and things like that. And uh, they move to safer stocks, so then the Dow goes up and the Nasdaq gets less liquidity, so then it moves even faster. So it's not just one thing that happens, it's sort of a cascade of events. Now struggling to get back above this 995. There they go. We're going to try. Building out a lot of volume here around this 29,995, 28,995. Well, I was leaning bearish off the open, leaning to the sell side, and I think that is just getting reinforced here as we make new RTH lows. And you can notice from the candle coloring, like, there was a tiny bit of blue here back at like 835, but otherwise, sellers just in full control of the delta and the volume right now. I'm gonna come try to test this 995 area again. Also, if you watch the stream pretty consistently, I talk a lot about like areas holding or prices holding for entries and things like that. When it's this volatile, it's going to be an area, right? Like 10 to 15 points will be a quote hold of an area with this level of volatility. There's just no way for price to really hold one exact spot when it's moving around this much. So buyers with a little bit of a push there back up through 29K. Still about 6 minutes until the opening range gets set. There's a huge cluster of buyers that showed up there briefly. They didn't get filled though. They like flashed like multiple bids of like 13 to 20 contracts and then just pulled it. Trading around these whole numbers like 29K is usually extra tricky. It's just sort of like a psychological thing. You know, when sellers see that rollover or buyers see that rollover from, 29 to 28, I think it changes how people view it. I'm not 100% surprised at the reaction, knowing what's coming with the speech at 1 o'clock, but um, I'm a little surprised the market's trying to get this far away from where most of the volume was done overnight. Because, if the speech comes out and then it's sort of like a nothing burger of a speech, right? Or like he just says things that people sort of already know going into it, then the market is going to just, it's just going to go back up to where all of this started. So that's what I kind of think about, where I'm like, I don't know how far sellers really want to get this down headed into a risk event. And as I've said, I'm not an expert on on monetary policy, but uh, I don't know if Bassett gives me a lot of confidence in that he knows what he's doing. I mean, he's the one who said last week that he was like, we're seeing a spike in oil prices that I'm not sure where it's coming from. And I'm like, good Lord, dude. I'm pretty sure my mom knows why there's a spike in oil prices. Also, if you're just joining the stream, welcome. Feel free to hop in chat and say good morning. Hit the like button if you are able. We appreciate it. Still like 3 more minutes-ish before the opening range is set. This is a very good day to be patient. This is not a week, not a day or a week to be a hero. Nick, I'm trading micros. I don't I don't personally think you can trade a 50K account on minis and manage your risk properly. Buyers holding 29K for now. All right, so there's the 9 a.m. rollover here, uh, here in Central Time. So that's 30-minute opening range getting set. The low is 28,946 and the opening range high is 29,243. So we're looking at like call it like a 300 point opening range. And let's not forget that the overnight high is all the way up at 29,480. So 500 points from there. See some aggressive sellers taking a stab there at it. Hi, David. No trades yet. You haven't missed anything. I don't trade before the 30-minute opening range gets set. So I just now have my own, from my own rules, a green light to start looking for trades, but haven't touched it yet. Buyers diligently holding right in front of 29K. That's multiple bounces there. They just can't seem to get it much further than like 29.30 or so. Looking at this little spot right back here, 28,829, 830. So if we get under 29K and lose this level, that 8, I'm just going to put this on my chart actually. What I'm going to draw is just my higher time frame level so I know where it's at because things are moving around so fast. So let me just do that and extend and extend left. Okay. Let me just color this line so we can see it. Format. Properties. Just make this be, how about pink? Okay. This is not an order flow level, just if you're watching. This level right here, this 830, is the undercut of this little wick right here, and it's getting close to these tops here at 750. So it's like the first sort of place that I think buyers might try to hold. So if I get short, as they just lost that 28,995 level, let's see where my stop would need to be. Okay. This would be my first target. We look for a retest here and see what, if they get it back up to around 29K. Also, if you're just joining the stream, welcome, good morning, happy Monday. I've said it a few times for the people already here, so if you've heard it, apologies, but volatility is extremely high today. Please be careful when trading. Size down if you're able, wider stops. I've sized down from my typical 3 contracts down to 2. See this little like hole in the volume profile here? This little like notch where they're just like not trading hardly at all. It's like right at 29K. See if they come back up and struggle with this price. If they just roll it over and like make new lows, then I'm just going to look for a different entry. I'm not going to chase price down. All right. First time they touched it, couldn't get it above. I want my entry to be slightly above this imbalance because I want my stop to be like close to 30, 28 or 30. And they gave us a little look there, but didn't hold it there for very long. Patience, patience, patience today. See if they fill this seller here at 96. I need just a little bit more of a push here from the sellers or buyers. All right, my offer is at 98. I don't know if they'll fill me. Stop will be at 28. I don't like my offer sitting there for too long, so if we get below 75, I'm going to pull it and I'll wait for price to come back up to me. Not quite to 75. All right, that's 75. I'm going to cancel those for now. I'll wait for price to come back up to me. Still looking at the same price, just when price is super far away, like kind of this trade has already kind of started. I don't like to sit on the offer because it gives a lot of space for things to change pretty fast, right? So like if a big buyer comes in here and starts to like run price back up towards me, like I want to be have my offer here when like I'm watching the actual order flow that's happening in this area, not when price is like way over here. So I saw what I wanted. I put my offer in. They didn't take it though. Missed it by a couple points. Still interested in the same price though. Like in a perfect world, I want to see price slowing as it gets like I want it to barely get to my offer, right? So like if I have my order sitting there when price is really far away from it, it's able to get kind of like a really fast running start if it wants to. So I don't want to be sitting there with my offer in front of potential buy momentum. But I would like for them to give me another look here. There's always more opportunities, especially when volatility is really high. So you're not going to see me like trying to force myself into this short position. Like where it's set up right now, the place that I want to be short is close to 29K. I have no business being short down here at 960. You see my volume profile just shifted. It's not like one event that happens there. It's just that the 70% of the volume has been done in the blue region. So there's just a point at which like that math switches over and the volume profile sort of pops one color. So point of control is down here now at 28,990. All right, so here they are again. Let's see how this trades here. So seller here at 99. All right, rejected that price again. So I'll put my bid back or my offer back there, 98. Stop is up at 28. Rude. Like every time I put in an offer there, oh, I don't know if I want this one. Let's see. There's a very quick snap back there. All right, we're filled. right as buyers get super aggressive. So short at 98, stop is at 28, 2 contracts. Stop will come to break even if we make new RTH lows. Ultimately looking for 910 for the first target. Willing to take a stab at this trade a couple times if they stop me this first time. And sorry, my lows are all like my opening range low and the current low are like sitting over the top of each other. So the current low is 28,946 and 3/4. So Gonna work their way towards my stop here. And a big buyer. All right, stopped there. We got the start of a move. I mean, I'm happy with where my entry was. Buyer's going to try to give this another little. Gonna try to give it a go above 29K. And if you watch the stream, you know that like for me, as long as I get, I'm never happy. No trader is ever happy about getting stopped out. But like as long as I got a little bit of a move in my favor, then I think my analysis was decent. We just didn't go as low as I needed to take profit. So, we held this level multiple times on the short side. So probably look for the same thing, but they need to lose that level again. So we were short at 98, so I need to see them below 98 again, and then see if they come back up to test it. It's another holding 98 from that side, at least for a second. So I'm gonna I want to see like 85 trade and then come back up here to 98. It was pretty close right there. They might have just got my stop and might take off without me, but such is trading. All right, so I'm interested in this price again if they can get price back up here. There's some sellers here. There's one here at 95. There's a couple here right above 29K. Just going to try the same trade again if they fill me. Round two. Maybe not. I mean, it is a round two, but buyer's trying real hard to hold 29K. But we've gone down quite a bit since the open and going sideways. So might be a fast second stop out. If I get stopped here, we'll let this settle in a little bit. I'm not just going to get chopped to pieces. I mean, the issue is now they're kind of starting to rotate around this price, and I'm just getting kind of stuck in the middle. Yeah, Peach, I'm just trying to get filled in the that 29K, that imbalance in that delta zone, which I did. It has not worked. This will be the second time that it hasn't worked. All right, 0 for 2 there. Buyers just want to try to take this higher for a little bit, I think. So if you've watched me trade on the stream, you'll know that the reason that I trade with 3-to-1 risk to reward is because I take stops fairly frequently. So to me, I'm like, if I'm short here, they can't get it above this price, we make new lows, then 830 to 850 is like my long distance target. And I really think that I can get 90 points from here. I think we can get down to 900. So I'll take 2 stabs at it. I'll let this settle in a bit before I decide to do anything else with it. But that's, you know, so many times you'll get popped on a stop, they'll run it and then go right back to where it was, and they held underneath it here for a couple of minutes, which is long enough for me to get short again. But buyer's trying. I just wish they had done this the first time, and then I could have just taken the one stop. But they wanted their hands in my wallet. So I'm not getting in front of this right now. Everybody who had the same idea as I did and maybe had their stops higher is busy stopping out at the moment. So, and sometimes I see this happen and I'm like, ugh, like maybe I should have been shorting at like, 33, 34. We had multiple rejections there, but ultimately it wouldn't have mattered. Had I been short at 33, I still wouldn't have got 90 points off of that. So, um, you know, 30-point stop and trying to get 3 to 1. Ultimately, my long distance target is way further away from where we traded. So regardless of where my entry was, we didn't get anywhere close to target. It's one of my least favorite uh, market behaviors, I will say. Not me getting stopped, but like this super, super aggressive, like super fast, super aggressive right off the bell, and then sideways, 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 and then rally right back into it. It's tricky, tricky, tricky to trade. The other thing that I think is really important is like, this is where I want to be short. I don't want to be short anywhere up here. So, what newer traders and even I'm guilty of from time to time is like, so hung up on like, I think this is going lower. I think this is going lower. And so I take a couple stops here and then I find myself like trying to like fade it up here. And like, I don't have any type of order flow up here that I should be fading against. I don't have, buyers are pushing this. Anybody that was shorting for, 30 minutes to 45 minutes down here, is having to like stop out up here. It's just fueling a move higher. So, I'm fine getting stopped out down here. I'm not okay getting stopped out on the short side where this is at right now. Sellers should be a little careful here because they're kind of building out this volume node right here, but then it's like pretty flat profile. Like there's not a lot of like distinct volume here until you get like back up into the session mid. So it starts to go much higher from here. Like if it gets above 29,100, I think you're going to start to see more of a squeeze higher. Market is listening to me. I can't make money on it today so far, but uh, it's listening to me when I says it's going to try to squeeze higher. And just an update on this I'm trading a 50K prop account from Lucid. I have a funded account through them, but I'm trading a 50K eval to kind of quote unquote teach myself to size up. That's been something I've been working on for the past 2 or 3 weeks. You guys have been able to watch that live. I think it's going pretty well. But just like an update on where that's at after this morning stopped, I'm like maybe like $400 to $500 off the high on that account. So drawdown, I think it's a $2,000 drawdown on that account. So, you know, have $1,500 left to play with, which for me is plenty. That's like, what is that? Like ten stops in a row with no winners in between. So probably unlikely. So a little exhaustion there from the buyers right at this little high volume node they're building out in the middle of space here. Also, if you're new to the stream, welcome. Feel free to hop in chat and say hi. Taking 2 trades this morning. They were the exact same trade. So we were short here, basically shorting this imbalance in this aggressive delta zone, and kind of like with the idea being like a failure back above 29K. Was hoping for a rollover to get down closer to this higher time frame level around 850 to 830. So I think the risk to reward made a lot of sense. So we got short here, got maybe 30-ish points in the money. Got stopped on this rally. They went back below. They held it below for a few minutes, which is long enough to get me short again, and then took another stop on the exact same price. So that's where we sit right now, down 120 points. One of my favorite things about the ScalperIQ candle coloring is it keeps me from jumping back into stuff. Like, I don't need to be shorting a bunch of aggressive blue buy candles all the way up. It's not a good idea. There's this big delta print up here at 150. Go see how big that was. I think that was from the open. Yeah, it's like 500 contracts here. Wasn't an imbalance, just meaning that at least it's not big enough to flag. There's another one up here at 185. Saw a lot of big trades happen. There's like almost an 800 further up. So if I was long, that's what I would probably be targeting, is like first stop, well, like 150-ish. They're only 50 points away from that right now. It's kind of funny. When I first decided to start streaming here, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do if I get stopped out live? I had to like step back for a moment and be like, you're absolutely going to get stopped out live. And to me, like, that's half the purpose. I hate popping around YouTube and there'll be videos of like 100% accurate scalper never loses. And I'm like, my God, I hope nobody believes that stuff. I know there's newer traders that just don't know any better, but I think it's just so disingenuous and I think it just doesn't help, right? I've been trading been trading markets since like almost 10 years. And if you're not stopping out, if you're not having losing days, you are basically then trading in a way that at some point you are just going to like fully blow up, because the only way to not stop out is basically means you're just holding positions with super, super wide stops and waiting for price to barely go in your favor and jump back out. And you can do that for a little bit, but there's going to be a day where at some point, it just starts to go in one direction and never ever comes back to your position. Wow, that is an angry sell move there. So I feel that I'm doing the trading community a service by stopping out on live. Also, we recorded a new episode of Rewind the Tape this weekend, so that will be up pretty close to the market close today. So encourage you all to check that out. There's 2 episodes there already. If you're not familiar with that series, we take a trade from the live stream and look at it in a bit more detail, look at the order flow, look at the price ladder, see what was working, see what was going through my head at the time. This episode that we'll release, which will be episode 3 later today, is actually going over a losing trade from Friday, a trade that I really liked. We got like 40 or 50 points in the money before it ultimately came back and stopped us out. But I think it's an interesting watch talking about using big orders as price magnets, as well as covering an iceberg order, which we happen to catch in our recorder. So we record our depth of market so that we can play it back live, and um, you'll actually be able to see. We slow it down so that you can actually see the iceberg um, play out. So if you're not familiar with what an iceberg order is, it basically means that when there's an order sitting here, so like this one at 160 that says 13, price would get there and just start trading 160 over and over and over. And large entities are able to sometimes hide uh, their entire size. So they could have like 1,000 lots there for sale and the market won't know it. And then as they get up there and they trade it repeatedly, um, you'll see tons of volume going off and price going nowhere. So sometimes those can be places that end up being kind of pivot points, one large participant. Choppy, choppy here. Sellers trying hard to not let this go much higher. I'm going to take a look at the other indexes and see how the rest of them are processing this bounce. ES is super choppy. And YM is up and putting in what looks to be a beautiful 5-minute bull flag. So Bitcoin is closing in on 80K. So up about 3% there. VIX is off of its high from the open a little bit, probably on this rally, sitting up about 4.75%. It's funny when I chat with other traders and was just pinging one of our members and was like, price action is rude this morning. I was trying to get short below 29K. She's like, me too. I'm like, well, I feel like when I do that and I hear multiple people, we're all either short or trying to get short down here at the same time, squeeze starts to make a lot more sense. If you're watching this also, like if you're new to the stream and you're like, why am I not like, don't have my depth of market scrolled over here, or why am I not looking for another trade in here? I don't really have much interest in being long right now. And even if I did, I don't really see a place to get in. The Nasdaq is still down 1%. I think 29K might be a bit of a magnet, but yeah, if I'm going to look for a short, I either need another like imbalance or something else to trade off of in this area, or I'm going to wait until they get back up into these imbalances at 160. Otherwise, I don't have any business touching this at the moment. It's an underrated skill when trading to be able to sit on your hands. You have to learn to like have your P&L sit in the negative and be okay with that and not immediately try to like quote unquote fix it. Like I'm not interested in getting back to break even. I'm interested in putting on another good trade if that opportunity shows up. If I end the session red, I end the session red. My goals are to put on high probability trades with good targets, places where I can try to get 3-to-1 risk to reward. And if we're trading somewhere like we are right now, and I don't feel that I have edge and I don't feel that I can get, you know, 90 points before the market trades 30 points against me, then I sit on my hands. You want your red days to be small and your green days to be big. But that also means you got to be okay with taking some red days. You just don't want those red days to be catastrophic. I don't know how many times and I've done it before too. This is not me saying that I'm not guilty of it, but you look at somebody's like P&L for like the month of, whatever month, and they'll have like a $200 winning day and a $400 winning day and a $100 winning day and then like a negative $100 losing day, and then all of a sudden they have like an $1,800 down day, right? And it just like wipes out all progress, and so those are the days you have to avoid as a trader. You have to avoid tilt. You have to avoid trying to dig yourself out of a hole. There's days that you're just off, or there's days that the market just like doesn't agree with your analysis, and there's days that you're just unlucky, right? I can't tell you how many days I've been red because I got stopped out by 1 point, or 2 points, and then price went and did what I wanted it to do. That's just trading. Also, if you're new to the stream, welcome. Feel free to hop in chat and say hi. If you're not trading the NASDAQ, hop in chat and tell us what you are trading. Maybe the price action is more favorable somewhere else. I'm a single asset trader, so the NASDAQ and I are roommates, if you want to think of it that way. I traded MES for many years, but switched to the NASDAQ about a year and a half ago. So we're still getting to know each other. The other reason I'm not in position here is I think it's a coin flip between whether this gets itself back up closer to the RTH open and above like 160, or can't get any higher and dumps back down to 29K. I don't think there's like a particular, I don't think one side has more edge there. So I want to see where this has popped back up to on a higher time frame. Also kind of want to see what we bounced off of. Just kind of the middle of this consolidation here. I don't really see a lot. Probably more of a like a whole number reaction. Also, my volume profile looks like this because it's just too compressed, because this is a weekly profile. So for the first day of the week, it doesn't really help us at all. It's the same as my daily profile, just less detailed. But I think this is more of a reaction of just like an undercut of 29K and a push from there. I don't like, from my own analysis, I don't really see anything from a higher time frame that's like, oh, we're distinctly bouncing off of this area. I think sellers just made a run for the whole number, and you see the volume taper at the bottom. So less interest, less interest, less interest, and then you get a bounce. So as mentioned at the beginning of the stream, if you missed it, Secretary Bassett is has a speech at 1 p.m. Central Time to chat about intervention into the bond market. So that is what I would consider a high volatility event. That is an unknown. I also don't know if they're releasing his speech ahead of time. Sometimes they do that for speakers, but just know that I would highly advise not being in position when he starts talking, unless you're like deeply, deeply in the money. Because even if you have a stop in, you may just see like liquidity disappear and you could get a lot of slippage. So I don't have a strong opinion about whether their intervention works or is going to work or is really like a good idea or a bad idea. I just know that the market will probably respond to whatever he says. I want to look at this 29,100 number. I don't really see much. Like this area it keeps rejecting here at 108. Yeah. And when I say I don't see much, like I'm looking at my delta volume off to the side, but it's like most of it's under 100. There's not really like, a big order. There's like this 100 here at 1112, but like we've seen a lot bigger orders than that today. So, sellers are defending, but I don't really see much. I will say that like if I had taken a long down here, I'd be really annoyed and a little bit not so happy with this going up like that and then just going sideways. But also if I had longed 29K, I would probably already be out of position right now. So I'd probably have gotten flat in front of 100. That would have been about 90 points. But unfortunately, I was short. Seller's getting pretty aggressive there. You see that like quick spike? It's like from 80 to 96, like a 16-point spike, and they just dunked on it. Just far too choppy to get into anything right here. If you happen to watch our first episode of Rewind the Tape where we break down order flow a little more closely, I think there's a part in there where I talk about like what I need for an entry. And I say something to the effect of like, I need a sell imbalance. I need a previous day's high. I need something interesting, right? And like nothing in here looks interesting to me. That's why I was short down here. We had this aggressive delta zone. We had a buy imbalance they couldn't get back above, and I wasn't right, but I feel comfortable leaning against things like that. I don't feel comfortable just jumping in, into space. Yeah, I have no idea, David. That's why I'm not in position. I think it's just as likely that they, pull back and try to rally this up into some of these imbalances up here as it is for this to slowly drift back down towards 29K. It's a tricky session when you have a risk event coming on later in the session. We're still 3 hours away from that speech. And so sometimes like neither side wants to like get too far away from, you know, like buyers don't want to push it too high, sellers don't want to push it too low, and we may just start to chop. Nobody wants to get caught off sides during whatever that speech about the bond market intervention is going to be. The market hates uncertainty, right? When we uh like when the Ukraine war started and there was kind of a buildup into that, like, that might happen. The market sold off sort of like in anticipation of that event. And then when it actually started, the market rallied because, which, like, to a lot of people is like, that doesn't make any sense, right? Like, is a war in Europe, isn't that bad news? Yeah, yes, unequivocally, yes. But like the market sort of like sells off in anticipation of that risk event. It's the same reason that like stocks go up on bad earnings, right? Because like you'll see the stocks sell off slowly but surely into earnings. And then by the time earnings happen, that risk event has already, like, they've already sold it off. And so then the actual earnings event itself is just a bunch of people short covering to close their position, or, buyers that are like, this is too far sold or whatever it might be. So it's a really tricky thing for newer traders and even experienced traders to get a handle on, because you anticipate the market's going to go down on bad news, but you kind of don't know whether that's already been priced in or not. So events that are more likely to make the market sell, in my opinion, are events like this unknown speech, which we don't know, like, how big is the intervention going to be? Is the intervention going to happen? Is it going to happen next month? Is it going to happen next week? Does it start immediately? Like, how long is it going to go on? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Sellers trying to get a handle on this again. All of these tops here at like 30, basically where I stopped out, might be support there. I don't know if there's anything, not anything that I see to trade there. Also, just in case it's not clear, if we get back down to this level, I will not be shorting it right away. It would need to undercut it and then show me that it is still resistance, but really, like, it held it cleanly like a couple of times and then it started to rotate around it. So I don't have as much faith in that level. And I would actually anticipate some type of like kind of short covering or like quick bounce reaction off of it. I don't think they're just going to come down and cut through this level. Um, so just kind of saying that out loud, that like if price comes back here very quick, you're not going to see me jumping into a short position at the same price for a third time. We've also calmed down a lot in terms of volatility. Like off the open. So this is the open right here, right? We did this like kind of crazy down move from like 241, basically like 100 points in the first 25 seconds, and then just like sold off basically almost in a straight line, a couple little like small micro bounces in there. And then we just kind of have like settled in now. Now you're really only trading like 100 to 120 point range. now. So like depending on if another trade sets up, if we're still kind of trading this like this slow, I'm either going to need to adjust my target to be 2-to-1 instead of 3-to-1 and still keep the 30-point stop, or I'm going to need to go back to a 20-point stop and look for 60 points. Because right now, I have to have like almost a perfect entry and a perfect exit to try to get 90 points out of this. When we first opened up, when we did 243 to 940 pretty fast, I was like, all right, I need to have that 30-point stop because I think I can definitely get 90 points out of this. But right now, don't have that kind of confidence. Also, if you're new to order flow trading, you're not familiar with terms like delta, then we have a couple. We just released a new sort of like short explainer video on different tools that traders use for analyzing and putting delta on the chart. Those would all be tools that you can find in most trading platforms. They're not paid tools, and that video will also link to an explainer on what delta is, like a 60-second explainer on like what delta is and what it means. So feel free to check those out. Those will be on our channel underneath shorts. The newest one will be at the top, and then there's a link, like a related video you can click on to get to the other one. So you don't have to dig back in our shorts feed. You see that diamond marker appearing? That's just buyers tried to swing the delta over into the positive, and sellers aggressively shifted it back in that direction. So that's not like a marker to say, hey, sell. It's just letting me know that there was sort of an aggressive change of hands uh, for the auction there. I honestly thought the volatility just based off the open was going to be a lot higher than this, but we have kind of traded our way into a much slower pace. Man, both indexes just look like ES and YM also just look choppy and gross. It's gonna be a hard week. I think it's really gonna be a hard week to trade. Between the speech today, Nvidia earnings on Wednesday, and Jackson Hole on Thursday and Friday. Man, this is just gross. Buyers tried to pop it there and sellers gave it a good smack. The other reason that I'm not in position is like I kind of have no idea where this wants to go right now. Like my gut is telling me this kind of wants to rotate back down towards 29K, but I think it's kind of coin flip territory. And like even as an experienced trader, I have to fight like nobody likes having red P&L, but like I know I'll just make my P&L even more red like of jumping into places that I don't belong. So the two places that I'm kind of interested in are still leaning on the short side. I would probably need to see this cut through down to like in the like mid 60s and then not be able to get back above 29K and be interested in that retest and potential rollover there. Um, or if we rally up into this area. I'm not really interested in longs today. I just think like on a higher time frame, we're just under a lot of sell pressure. And I'm going to need to see buyers prove themselves more so than sellers. But just because I'm leaning bearish doesn't mean I'm just going to like step in front of a NASDAQ rocket ship if it decides to head back up. But you're down 1%, you're below the previous day's low, you're below the session mid. We had quite a bit of selling. If I zoom out, this is pretty steep. You had a lot of selling in the overnight. You had one kind of okay bounce and then they sold it off again. And then the RTH open was like super violent on the sell side. We did like 100 points in 30 seconds to the downside. So volatility has like contracted quite a bit. We're like trading a lot slower now, but I just don't. Yeah, I'm just not going to step into any longs. But what that also means for me is that like if I'm only looking on the short side, then that doesn't mean that like, I'm waiting for that opportunity. And I think that opportunity is losing 29K and showing that it's now resistance, or it's back up here, maybe near some of these imbalances or up near the previous day's low or the session mid and slightly out of value. But like everything in between those is like a giant do not touch. I wish that I could use GIFs on YouTube chat, but I think it's the Emperor's New Groove. It's like a Disney reference, but there's a scene where the prince gets turns into a llama and he's like no touchy and I'm like that's right. That's what we're doing with the market in between those zones is no touchy. Just get chewed up is what will happen. So and honestly like for how I trade, there haven't been a ton of opportunities thus far. You know, took 2 stabs at this one and then we rallied and now we're just chopping. So that's why you got to resist that urge to like quote unquote repair your P&L. Because I'll be here until like noonish central. It's like another like hour and a half or so. So like plenty of time for like another trade to potentially set up, but you know, also open to the idea that price might just like chop up until Secretary Bassett's speech at 1 p.m. Central. And if it does that, then, you know, I'll end the session red and we'll be back on Wednesday to live to fight another day. You know, the goal is to make money. The second goal is don't blow up. Don't blow up. Don't go on tilt. Take a small red day. That's like your job as a trader. I would argue that your first job is that. First job is don't die. Second job is to try to make some money. Because I also find the deeper this gets into a session, the harder it is for my style to make money. And so, you know, since I'm already down, you know, 2R, I kind of have to like pump the brakes and be like, all right, I'm not waiting for like an even quote better opportunity. I think that's also a trap. People will be like, you'll hear streamers, I think, say it a lot where they're like, oh, well, I'm waiting for like a, you know, an A plus setup. And I'm like, I try to only take A plus setups. So, you know, I'm not looking for like the most spectacular setup. I'm just looking for a setup. I want to see if there are any big buyers or anything sitting down at 29K. It's 42 contracts. It's not like small, but it's not crazy. Just gonna poke my head around to see if there's anybody else. Other big orders down here. Don't really see anything down there. Let's see if there's anybody. I had drawn this level whenever I was like shorting as like a potential target, long distance target down at 840. There's some like liquidity sitting here, but it's like so far away from price. I'm looking for like 5 or 600 or 700 contracts or anything like that, but I don't see anything like that. Nope. Nothing. Nothing but chop. Also, if you're new to the stream, welcome. Feel free to hop in chat and say hi. Love getting to meet new people. It's one of my favorite things actually just about like running a Discord is like you just get to meet. I have like so many of my friends that I've met over the years through Discord. So there's a link in our description to our Discord. It's free to join. We do have like a members only section for ScalperIQ members, but we do have a public discussion area so you can hop in, ask order flow questions, or just say hey. It's a good day to do that when the price action is just. I'm really annoyed too because like man, the volatility off the open, I was like, man, there's going to be so many opportunities today, and you know, basically after they rallied this off of 29K, you had that move, which is like one tradable move, and then after that, it's just been nasty. Yeah, I really thought after the Nasdaq did 100 points in 30 seconds off the open, we were going to have a kind of high flying volatility day, and really turned into kind of a lame duck. Been stuck in like a 60-point range now for like an hour. Also, give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to go off camera for just a second, but the stream will stay up. I'll be back in just one moment. All right. Had to get a beverage to watch this terrible price action. I really do think that this is mostly being driven by Bassent's speech coming up at 1 p.m. I think the market is just going to be in a holding pattern until then, but honestly, because of that, probably slight edge to the buyers here. Like I'm still like overall leaning to the sell side just based on where we are from a higher time frame, but the market may not want to put on that type of risk going into that speech, so we may just kind of see this like slow drift back up. I did say that it might try to hold these tops. They just held it like literally to the tick. Wow. That is some kind of news. So hands off the steering wheel there. Went from 0 to 100 real fast. Just want to see the liquidity is like when that happened. All right, I'm gonna Right. So this is what I mean when I'm talking about bad liquidity during like news drops and stuff. You can see different holes where there's no bids and offers. So I'm going to scroll up to where I think this might try to go. So there's here at 165. There's this bigger imbalance, I think, at 186, which I think is probably a better place to look. 185. So there's like 800 contract imbalance from earlier. It's about 60 points from price right now. I have no idea what this reaction is from, but all I had to do was go get something to drink, come back. And I mentioned this at the beginning of the stream. There is a lot of headline risk right now. And what I mean by that is with all the stuff with the bond market, Nvidia earnings, uh, Jackson Hole coming up this week, there's still a ton of stuff coming out of the Middle East. You know, people want a resolution. There was some nonsense headline over the weekend about the number of ships going through the strait was like up 400%, but that meant that instead of one ship going through, it was four supposedly. Don't even know if that was verified. So it's just, you know, there's just a lot going on in the world right now. And so just know that whenever you're in position, even if it's your one little micro, you know, you are exposed to whatever headline might be coming across the wire. And you can't ever, like, there's no way to ever mitigate that. You know, if you're a trader, news is going to happen when you're in position. That's why you keep a stop in place. But there are just weeks like this one where that risk is more elevated than others. Man, that was exciting for all of 30 seconds, and now they're just chopping it higher. I'm interested in seeing reactions to these different imbalance levels, one at 165 and one at 185, but that doesn't mean that I'm just going to like step into a short here. And testing some of these lower highs from that crazy move off the open. Basically right here where it just tested at like 145, 150-ish. Higher time frame wise. This is a weekly profile, so it's really, since there's only one day in the week, it's just a daily profile at the moment. But top edge of value lines up almost, there's like this little bit of a gap between the bottom edge of value from last week and the top edge of value for today. It's going to be right around 29,260, which is like right above the opening range high. Pretty nice bounce off of 29K. I was looking for a continuation from the sellers down there, but buyers had other plans. Still a pretty flat profile up, right? You don't actually start to get into like another volume node until you get like to 220-ish. So if buyers want this, they could carry it. I want to see what they're going to try to do with these imbalances. The one at 165 and the one at 185, but they're just about into this, like, we'll call 223 to kind of like where it's at right now. They're like kind of trading in that like insane 30-second 100-point drop. So very, very thin volume because price didn't spend very much time there. So they're kind of trading inside of that at the moment. But working on what looks to be kind of like a very ugly V-shaped recovery from the buyers. Getting the, here's down and here's the other side of the V that they're working on. And a lot of this, I mean, we saw some pretty distinct selling off the open, but a lot of the range from the overnight came from, the London and the Asia sessions. So sometimes you'll see RTH open up and just kind of firmly disagree with what the overnight traders did. But I think they were in agreement for about half an hour. They were in agreement until I decided to take a short position twice. All right, so they're going to come test this imbalance level here at 165, looks like. It's right here. See what how they react to it. I'm not looking to trade this right now. So if you see me hovering over the depth of market, it just like automatically shows my orders when I hover over bid or ask. But I'll tell you guys if I'm looking to get into position. Some big sellers showing up right there. This lighter blue line that's an imbalance here at 165 is also from the overnight session, so I don't give it quite as much weight as the one at 185. Another big seller at 171 3/4. buyers kind of getting it into that place where like they've taken back so much of this drop that they're probably starting to put the opening range high in play. Some sellers stacking here around this 185 level. But sellers starting to give back too much of this move from the open. Still haven't traded 185 here. Just as I say that. Oh, they got close and not quite. The big buyer there that just got filled. And there's 185. Yeah, I think sellers have given back too much of this move. They heard me say down here at like 80 that I wasn't going to trade this from the long side. So up we go. They'll still need to get through the session mid and the previous day's low here at 220, but I think they have plenty of momentum to do that right now. And there was like no reaction to this 185 level on a retest, so not really paying that much attention to it. Look at all these buyers clustered as we like try to pull back. We're like pulling back to like 190. There's just so many buyers trying to get in here. So back below 185. I think there was a large order on the depth of market somewhere. You notice like how like so all of my orders scale to the largest order on the depth of market, and now all of these have popped back out. So somebody pulled some liquidity or got filled somewhere. It's like a really small rejection over 200 and like just outside of value, like into this yellow part of the volume profile, but not much of a pullback here. I might have said it on stream before, but I'll say it again. I am terrible, terrible at trading these sort of like V-shaped recoveries. So that's at least part of the reason why I'm sitting here just watching. But I have a hard time when the market just like completely changes its mind down at 29K, given how violently we sold off the open. So it very much does not agree with my analysis or my own sentiment. I'm not like, not one of these people that I'm like, oh, I'm so bearish and the market needs to like plummet to zero. I just think on a higher time frame, it looks easier to sell than it does to buy, but that doesn't mean you're not going to find, you know, rallies in between those. But you're like 60 points off the RTH high here. And I just haven't seen anything from sellers up here. When you're getting pullbacks that are like, 20 points, 30 points, 15 points, you know, it's just profit taking. It's not, no one's stepping in with size from the sell side. I'm going to take a look at, compress this a little bit. I'm going to see if there's any other Globex levels as we start to get higher. So there's one right above the opening range high here at 250. Go take a look at that price. Whole cluster of sellers right above 200. Yeah, I don't really see like a large imbalance there. That's the problem with the overnight. Problem with the overnight volume. So like these imbalances are relative to their sessions. So the overnight imbalance, like what might take 800 some contracts or something like that to be an imbalance during RTH might be like 50 contracts, in the overnight session. So I just don't give that as much weight. Pulling back a little bit off this 185 area, but I would need to see a lot more selling to want to short up here. Like I'd probably want to see it back down to like 130s, 140s, and then kind of bounce back up and then potentially reject. Also, like I said earlier, I don't need to be fading anything when the candle coloring is like so starkly blue. Just buyers really having a field day up here. I really am kind of like not confused because I know why it happens, but like I'm interested in now we're scaling back. So like there's a big order here. So that's why that's scaling. But as soon as we got like back up above 180, I just noticed that all of the orders scaled quite a bit. I wish Motive Wave's study to show big orders wasn't so terrible because I could do that. I think that I've said that multiple times on stream. I might start working on a study for that for ScalperIQ because it's really frustrating to me when there's like a big order that appears up here, and if you watch our new Rewind the Tape episode that will be out later today, like I use big orders as sort of like points of reference, sometimes as targets, magnets, that kind of thing. And a lot of times like I keep track of them because they're sort of like easier to find around certain pivot points, but all of my orders scale to the largest order that they can find on the entire price ladder. And so when we got above 180, everything got a lot bigger, but I didn't see anything like large fill anywhere. So I'm a little bit confused as to where the large order was that either pulled it or flashed it or something. But anyway, seller's trying to get a little bit of something going here. I still need to see like below 140 and then a retest. I need to see that there's enough aggressive sellers off of this level for me to want to get in because so far sellers have just gotten their butts kicked on the way up, and I was one of them shorting near the low, so prefer to not get my butt kicked for a third time. Also, give me just 1 second, guys. I'm going to go off camera for just a moment. Be right back. Stream will stay up. So price pulling back here, but what did we get to 150s? I wanted to see like 130s before I was going to be interested in potentially shorting a retest of this level. I really do think that sellers like gave up too much price on this rally. And I think that I think they're like chomping at the bit to try to send this back through the opening range high if they can. I like this little retest reaction from 185 as they got back up to it, but the reason when I'm watching and I want to see like a pullback when I'm like talking about, oh, I want to see this pullback into the 130s or like whatever it might be, right? Is because to me, in like a big up move or even like a down move where you're getting like rallies back up and that kind of thing, like I assume it's just profit taking. If it's only like a very small piece that the buyers are giving back here, I'm not seeing like one side step in and really try to push price in one direction or another. And so that's why, this is a 185 is a level that I'm interested in potentially shorting from, but not unless I get sellers that are willing to push price far enough away from this that I think that there's actually selling and not just profit taking from this up move. Also, we're trading super fast again. So I think they see this 185 level, but if it sells off from here, it's probably going to be without me. So they are struggling with this 185 area. So like that's kind of like the first thing that I want to see if I'm like, do I want to potentially reoffer this level? Do I want to like potentially take a short trade up here? So like that's +1 for that trade idea. What I don't like is that sellers have given back like 80% of the down move from the open. And I think when that happens, price wants to maybe continue rallying up. So that's like -1 point for my short idea. And the next negative is that we haven't pulled back far enough off of this price. So we haven't pulled back far enough from 185. I think I just got an Amazon delivery, new heart rate monitor for running and cycling. I like wore the one that I had for so many years that when I was riding my bike on Saturday, that it was like literally coming apart. It was like it was like disintegrating on me. I was like, okay, all right. I think it's time to get a new one. You also notice the pattern on the way up, right? So like we pushed, went sideways, pull back, push, sideways, push, so if you're just trading patterns, like the pattern hasn't broken for the buyers yet. So really just look like they're just taking a breather. Also, if you're new to the stream, welcome. Feel free to hop in chat and say hi. Hit the like or the subscribe button. We're here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It's going to be a bonkers week. We have NVIDIA earnings coming up on Wednesday. We'll be streaming in the morning. Trying to get back up to 185 again. And it's one of those things that like they can be struggling with a price, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to short that price right away. Because like what I like to think about is I'm like, okay, if I was short at 185, my stop would be 30-point stop. So like 215. So my stop would be up here. And my target would have to be around 90 points away, maybe 60 points for break even, pulling my stop to break even. So you're looking like all the way down here back into this consolidation. So if I was short, I would probably just be frustrated that price is like just chopping around my entry. Sometimes I use it as like a benchmark where I'm like, or like a gauge of like, am I happier that I'm out of position or would I be happier if I was in position, right? Right now, I would be frustrated if I was in position. So it's also like a just a kind of a busted volume profile. You have like this thin nothing from the overnight, a little bit of more volume around 200, and then it's just like a volume profile just like full of holes on the way down. So these profiles are really hard to short because there's so many shelves to hold on the way down. It's just like making a volume node and making a low volume node below it. So let's go take a look at the S&P's top 500 holdings. All right, so Google caught a bid that it did not have earlier. So that looks like that's very much helping pull the NASDAQ up. Same for Microsoft. Oops. Apple's just choppy. Intel actually is like bounced some, but it's still down like 3% on the day. Nvidia down 2%. So I still see a lot of what I would consider like safe, quote unquote, safe stocks up. So a lot of Dow stocks are up this morning. Because like the Dow is actually green, I think. Yeah, not by very much. It's up like 1/3%. ES is basically flat. NQ is still down about 3/4%. I see a few new people popping in here. Also, like I kind of cheat just because like that's my it's my usual pattern is just to like look at the like I look at these on my phone to see like where different stocks and stuff are trading. And I don't know if that's something that you guys would be like interested in. You know, I could have Thinkorswim up in the background so that I could actually walk through the different things that are up. If that's something you're interested in, feel free to say so in chat and I can look and see what the most kind of efficient way to do that would be. I just use my phone because that's typically what I do when I'm trading solo, but I understand that listening to me say it out loud might not be as helpful as actually seeing it. I just have like a list of whatever the top, I don't know, 10 or 12 holdings are in the S&P. Uh, and I pay attention to what those are doing. It kind of just gives me an overall like market view. Uh, because if I'm like I'm wanting a sell off and like over 50% of the S&P's top 500 holdings are green or, flat at least, I think it's probably not happening. This 185 just became our point of control. They traded enough volume here. So the rally continues. And as I was saying, like, was interested in potentially fading this 185 area, but they never pulled price back down. I said I wanted to see it back down into the 130s and then come up and retest, and they never did that. So that kind of like sequencing prevented me from potentially taking a stop there. So I think that these small pullbacks are just profit taking. There's no like there's no big down move, so I really just don't see any like aggressive sellers stepping in, so I'm just going to stay out of the way. I said at the beginning of the stream I wasn't really interested in long trades, and so I took 2 shorts down here to see if we got continuation off of the very violent open and took 2 stops, and we rallied ever since then. But I haven't lost any more money trying to short this on the way up. So that's a win for me. And there's new highs in this rally, headed up towards the midline. All right, so I'm going to pop up to like near where the high is now. They don't like, we saw like a couple very like micro reactions to this 185 level, like a couple of like 20-point pullbacks, but like no actual selling off that level. So just going to kind of ignore that area. Pop my way back up to the opening range high, which there's a big order here at 250, which is like just on the other side of the RTH high. I think that's the most likely place for this to go now. And I know some of you might be watching and being like, oh, if you think it's a likely place for it to go, like, why are you not trying not to long? And the reason is that like my higher time frame analysis says that it's easier to be on the short side right now. So I'm just longs are kind of off the table for me. Also, I can't really get in here because if I'm looking for like 90 points, 60 to 90 points, depending on whether I'm using my 20 or 30-point stop, I'm looking for a move all the way up here, which it might do, but I don't find that as likely. So it's kind of like what I think about is like if my analysis is not really, I don't know that I would say that my analysis is quote wrong, right? Like NQ is still down on the session. you know, we've slowly crept back up to where the market opened, but we're still overall down from the overnight session. We're still below the previous day's low. We're below the previous week's low. We're like trading right at the previous week's low right now, so I still think that down is easier than up from here. But my job when the market is disagreeing with my kind of zoomed out picture is to not lose more money on that idea on the way up. I don't get paid to be stubborn. But the person that I learned to trade futures from used to say, like, if I don't remember exactly what his cutoff was, I want to say it was like 70%, but like if one side sells off or, goes up really heavy and that side gives back 70% of the move, like the last 30% becomes increasingly more likely. So, I mean, buyers are only 40 points off the RTH high here, so it's like the Mortal Kombat. Just finish them. Let's just finish the move. So still, if you missed the early part of the stream, Secretary Besant, I think that's how you say his name. I probably mispronounced it multiple times on stream. I'm sure he's not watching. He has a speech coming up at 1 o'clock to talk about intervention into the bond market. I will say it one more time for those of you that have missed it. I would not be in position when that speech is taking place. I expect the market to respond to it and probably respond to it in a very violent way. I don't know which direction, but just know that that is a volatility event coming up here in about an hour and a half. I probably won't still be on stream at that point, so I'm giving you guys a heads up now to be cautious around that event. So buyers getting back above the mid and the previous day's low right here. Just completely disagreeing with the sellers off the RTH open. And like, if you watch the RTH open on stream, I was like reading the risk disclaimer at the bottom, which is like what I read at the very beginning of each stream. And I like paused and I was like, oh, the NASDAQ just dropped 100 points in 30 seconds. So I really thought sellers were going to come in swinging, and they did for the first half an hour, and then just lost interest in selling and fumbled the ball at the lows. Is anybody else terrible at trading V shapes like this? I'm just the worst about it. Hi Malik. That's how you say your name. Welcome to the stream. Nice to have you here. Malik, we'll be here for like another like 45-ish minutes or so. But Feel free to feel free to hang out. We're here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So if you are towards the tail end of this stream, we're back again on Wednesday at 8:30 Central Time. And where am I from? I'm originally from Oklahoma and then spent 10 years in New York, and now I'm based in Texas, here in Austin. How about you? Where are you coming from this morning? Pakistan. Nice. What time is it in Pakistan right now? It's nighttime, 9:25 p.m. Nice. Well, welcome to the stream. I know that I think I read somewhere that like Southeast Asia, I know Korea and India, and I think Pakistan as well has really seen an explosion in retail trading in the last couple of years. So, retail trading across the board has grown in the last 5 to 10 years, but I know that that area of the world has also seen a big jump in trading. I think just as like accessibility has grown for markets in general, just as the digital age comes around, trading has just become much more global. So it's nice to see the diversity. Yeah, the pandemic is right. Yeah. I was trading I started trading at the end of 2018, I think. I like remember being home for Christmas at the time, like traveling from New York back to see my family in Oklahoma. And I don't know, I put like a couple $100 into a few really big name stocks. And so I was like holding like one or two shares, and I just found it kind of fascinating. And then I was like, I saw these like stocks that were trading below $1, and I was like, well, I can buy more of those than I can buy of these large cap stocks. Having no idea how much more risky of an idea that was, but I got connected with like some people on Twitter at the time, and then they kind of had a Telegram group where they were all trading penny stocks, and I made a lot of good friends there. Traded with them for a couple of years. I actually like did really really well for the first like 6 months to a year that I traded because I just had no sense of danger whatsoever. And at one point, I think I was up like low six figures and proceeded to give back all of those gains because I had no idea what I was doing. Fortunately, of the group, I think I took the least amount of damage. And honestly, that group was all kind of uh, all built around one or two stock names that we were kind of all in and trading together. And when that stock collapsed during the pandemic, I was fortunate enough to get out without losing any money. But a lot of the people that I traded with lost hundreds of thousands of dollars when that stock collapsed during the pandemic. And uh, yeah, the group just kind of fell apart after that, unfortunately. I had a friend of mine that I was trading with at that time, and he took, and I'm not even being sarcastic, I think he took like 2,000 or $5,000 and like turned it into like almost, I think he turned it into almost $1 million. And I told him, I was like, first of all, that's unbelievably impressive. And second of all, you should like take out a very large portion of that, like out of your trading account. And he never did. And he gave it all back. What do those groups do? For ours, it wasn't really a signal group. Those groups do exist, but our group was like, because when we were trading penny stocks, we're trading something that's trading at like 1 or 2 cents. Like the liquidity is so bad. There's so few traders trading that like it might move around just a tiny bit each day. And so most of it was like us chatting with each other, like this is where I think it's going to go, or I saw this news thing, or maybe somebody would come in and, buy $10,000 worth of the stock, which would like push it up like 5 or 10%. It's super, super, super dangerous. You can't even really trade those stocks anymore. It would be like the modern day equivalent nowadays to trading like meme coins. They're really, really dangerous because there's just not enough people participating in there. So price can just like bounce around on like nothing, just like up on air. So now that it used to be that you could just like, this was before Charles Schwab, who owns Thinkorswim now, but like they acquired TD Ameritrade. I don't remember, like 4 or 5 years ago. But before that, you could just like hop onto the TDA app and buy whatever penny stocks you wanted. And I think enough people like got hurt by stuff like that I think TDA was like, we're going to make this a little more difficult. So now those stocks trade on what's called the gray market, which means that they don't have a quoted price anymore. So like, if you go to like trade any stock right now and you see Apple trading at whatever $300, right? You can see how much it costs for you to buy it, and you can see like where you could sell it, right? On the gray market, there's no quotes. So you're just like, I'd like to buy this company. Who knows what price I get filled at? Who knows if I can get back out? So obviously when that happened, like all the liquidity dried up, and no one really trades those, I think, anymore unless you're forced to for some reason. But yeah, I would say the Telegram group was much more of a support group, and like every once in a while we'd see like you know, mm, and what brings me to trading? Man, I was terrible at math when I was in high school. Terrible at math in high school and college. But I've always been somebody that's a problem solver and somebody that just loves to tinker. And so markets fascinate me with how they move, why they move, how they remove repeatedly, how you can see different patterns and things like that. So that was my background into to markets. And honestly, just as like I got into it more, I started making a lot of really good friends along the way. But yes, Nick, I saw you said yowza in the chat. You're right. Those you don't know how dangerous it is, and you just don't know what you don't know. Yeah, Malik, how long does it take to be learn all of this and be profitable? I think there's never a I don't think there's ever a moment in time where you're like you fully know everything because markets are changing and evolving as fast as you're learning. So, I think that I think the facade that people put in front of you is that you go to these live streams, including this one, and people have the idea that like every person behind the screen is like this amazing trader who is super profitable, and I have three of my Lambos that are parked out front. I do not. I have a Honda Accord that's parked out front. I trade part-time, and run a couple of my own small businesses elsewhere. So trading provides me with some income, but I'm not paying the majority of my bills with it. um, and I think that's really most the case for most traders. Um, there are some people that trade full time, but it's not something that you should do. I think right off the bat, you just put an inordinate amount of pressure on yourself for that. But the answer is probably years somewhere in there. And also, like, I think you speed up your growth by picking like one thing to trade. But the problem is when you're new, you don't really know what that one thing is, you know? So you're like, I'm going to trade stocks for a little while, and then I'm going to trade futures for a little while, and maybe I'll dabble in options. And like every single one of those is like years worth of learning to be good at those one things. So, so what I try to tell new traders is like experiment a little bit, find what works for you, but like ultimately, you know, pick one thing and then pick one thing, one time frame, and trade small on that one thing. I think you'll just learn a lot more. Uh, I think stocks are like one of the biggest traps for people to trade because like every stock has a personality, every futures contract. The NASDAQ trades way different than ES does, and ES trades way different than YM does, you know? So I think you do a lot better picking one thing and learning everything you can about that one thing. Nice. I've never traded with Attis, um, but we actually have, you might enjoy if you're kind of like getting into order flow. We just posted a short video this morning. So, like on our channel, if you go to our shorts, our most recent video is just like a short walkthrough of uh, different tools you can use for order flow. And then there's a link from that video. If you go to the related video, there's a quick little like, what is Delta very simply. So those might be a couple places to get started. And then there's also, we have a couple of episodes called Rewind the Tape, where we look at order flow more in detail and how I traded with it on the live stream. So if you're interested, those are on our channel. They might be helpful if you're on the newer side. I don't really think this is going to set up for me, guys. Like this is just kind of a like, you know, higher low, higher low, higher low, just slow grind. It's not even like a momentum up into the over, the opening range high. We're just kind of like slow push. Yeah, Malik, the ones that we cover in that short video, which are cumulative delta, delta footprint, and delta profile, are all studies that you can find for free in most trading platforms. So, like, I'm using Motive Wave here, and I'm trading on a prop account from Lucid Trading, and Lucid Trading is like, I think a 50K account is like 75 US dollars. I don't know if there's any restrictions for overseas, so you'll have to look at that. But they give a free copy of Motive Wave with it, which will have all of those tools for free. Most platforms will have cumulative delta, delta profile, and delta footprint all built into them. You shouldn't have to pay for any of those. So, we have our proprietary tools, which are the ScalperIQ tools, which we have like a free trial and stuff for, but they are paid ultimately. But you don't need those tools to trade order flow. They just make it a little bit easier, in my opinion. Yeah, Nick, Top Step is another good option. We actually were using here at ScalperIQ is using Top Step for our, we have like internal accounts that we use so that we're like, as we're testing new studies and stuff, obviously we're using prop accounts because why would we use cash accounts to trade out new things that we don't know if they're going to work when they're in development? But Top Step, when they switched over to their own proprietary platform and they don't allow for custom coding, we were forced to abandon them in favor of Lucid. But they're still a good firm. Like, they're not going to like screw you on payouts and stuff like that. So we aren't sponsored by Lucid yet. Would probably take a sponsor from them uh, if they were so interested. So, Lucid, if you're out there and you hear us, we love you guys. Yeah, I particularly like any of these firms. I don't know if Top Step is, I haven't looked at Top Step since we left, but uh, I do like these firms that like you can pay one flat fee for it, right? Like I think, like I said, I think the 50K for Lucid is like $75 US dollars or something right now. Um, but then it's like if you're not just like, blowing up accounts every couple weeks. Malik, and I'm not going to be able to do the time conversion for you, so you'll have to do it yourself. But we stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8:30 Central Time, US time. So I don't really have like a distinct cutoff time. It's typically 8:30 to like 11:30, like around now to like noon-ish when trading starts to slow down in the afternoon. And or if we start to like chop around and the price action is terrible, I'll peace out sooner than that. But yeah, I would love to have you back here. I think if you're new to order flow, I really try to pride myself on, you know, both trading so that you guys can follow along in terms of like watching what I'm doing, but I try to like talk through my process so that you can understand what's kind of going through my head. So hopefully it's a learning experience as well as maybe entertaining from time to time. So popped above the previous day's low and the midpoint, and now back down to this 185 level. We just contracted so much in terms of volatility, versus the open. We did from, call it basically where we're at right now, from 185 down to the low around 940. And we did that in like, call it 15 minutes. And now it's taken us like 2.5 to 3 hours to get back to where it was. But yeah, Malik, if you subscribe and you hit the little bell icon when you do, you should get an alert whenever we go live in case you don't feel like doing the time conversion. So I'm probably going to hang out for like another 20 minutes here. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me. I don't think anything's going to change in 20 minutes for me to want to get into this. So it'll be a very like a normal, what I would consider a normal losing session for me. I really hate taking 3 stop outs in a session. I took 2 and nothing has set up for me since then. So we'll start the week off just a little bit red. Last week was like break even-ish. I think I was down like half an R or something like that. It really wasn't bad. So appreciate you, Malik. Appreciate you subscribing. But yeah, if you guys have any, questions as we're headed into noon here, Central Time, happy to answer them. And then we'll be back again on Wednesday. But really just kind of I think this session is mostly being driven by Besant's speech coming up here in about an hour. I think that is why the market is kind of drifting back up closer to break even, flat. Like the Nasdaq is still down on the day, but ES is flat, YM is slightly green. I think traders just like don't want to put on a lot of risk until they understand what exactly the treasury intervention is going to look like. So it's like the market hates risk, but the market also hates putting on a lot of size or direction before an event. Like they just want to they want to know. We're so close to the event that we're like, what's he going to say? What's the intervention going to look like? Malik, my name should be on stream. I think it says Zack. It would also be very fitting if like everybody is kind of waiting for this speech and then it comes out and is kind of like a nothing burger. Like it's just, you know, I just have no idea what he's gonna say, or I really don't even have any idea what they think they're gonna do. But I'm a day trader. I'm not a financial policy expert, so outside my wheelhouse. Yeah, nice to meet you too as well, Malik. Yeah. So I don't know what I don't know what they're gonna do, but you know, I would not be in position whenever he starts to talk. There should be plenty of opportunity this week, even if it's going to be a bit bonkers. So Wednesday we'll have Nvidia earnings after the close. Thursday and Friday we'll be here for Friday, but not for Thursday. But Thursday and Friday is Jackson Hole, which is a Fed meeting, um, and that definitely could move things around as well. I think famously, I'm probably going to misquote this. You guys are welcome to correct me, but I want to say in 2022, 2023, before the market really kind of sold off from its highs at that point as inflation started to skyrocket, that around the time there was Jackson Hole was when Fed Chairman Powell kind of said that we were in for some temporary pain because he knew that they were going to have to raise interest rates to start combating inflation, and the market just tanked after that comment slash at the end of Jackson Hole, and it became kind of like, you could point your finger on a chart and be like, oh, that's where Jackson Hole sold off from. So, not predicting anything because Fed Chairman Powell is not the Fed chairman anymore. So I don't know what this Jackson Hole will be like, but it is a volatility event, and it's like not a one moment event. That meeting goes on, I think, for like 2 or 3 days, maybe even through the weekend. It's like a whole like retreat for you know Fed members to be able to make policy decisions and talk about all the different global risks that are going on and how they're going to tackle that going forward. Mostly saying it out loud is like I think there's going to be plenty of opportunity for me to trade this week and fine walking away from a normal red day on a Monday. Mondays have been hard. Mondays have been hard the last like month or so. If you guys have watched the stream, I've either, I think, been slightly red on Mondays or just like not taking any trades at all. So it's a very exciting open and a very boring everything else after that. I think the saying is elevator down and stairs up. Basically what we did. Lucid's firms, in terms of their rules, they are pretty lenient. Like, I don't think I get anywhere close to any of their rules. So they have different accounts. They're the drawdown on so like the 50K account is you got to have 3K profit before 2K of drawdown. Their drawdown, I believe, is end of day. I think they make it now so that you can pick it. Like you can pick either like intraday drawdown or end of day drawdown. I think for most people, I would say pick end of day drawdown. Why do you want to deal with intraday drawdown? Uh, so for a 50K account, they're always going to allow you to trade. All of these firms are going to allow you to trade way more contracts than you need to. I think they do have some detailed like rules about flipping. Like I don't think you can be like trading, 10 in queue and flipping it for like half a tick or something like that. They'll like, they'll catch you doing that. But yeah, you have to check their website for details. They don't really have, I find that they have more generous rules than like Apex does. I've traded with Apex before, and I know they're like a big popular firm and some people have success with them, but I find that they deny traders payouts a lot more often and are generally harder to navigate their rule set than some of the other firms. I don't find Lucid to be that way. I think generally speaking, kind of like hoping that as we grow the live stream and, get more people in here, we've been doing this for like 6 to 8 weeks now. So I think, another 4 to 6 months or something, hopefully continuing to grow. Would love to be able to partner with somebody like Lucid because, then we can hopefully offer you guys discounted accounts and things like that. We're not quite there yet, but that is something that we're keeping an eye on as we continue to grow. So liking and subscribing will definitely help the stream. I would love to be able to offer those things um, to you guys. And I think as we get more people in here as well, we'll probably try and do some giveaways for, like a free couple months of Scalper IQ and things like that. So still waiting for us to get, when we start to get 30 or 40 or 50 people in here at a time, then I think we'll cross that bridge then. So stick around with us. You guys are here during the early days. We'd love to be able to make this experience even more special and more fun. So appreciate you guys being the early adopters to the stream. Yeah, absolutely, guys. Like, heck yeah, from Nick and Malik. Nice. Like, yeah, it takes time to grow these things. It grows organically. We aren't using any, I don't know. Some of these channels, I think they cheat. I think they pay for viewers until they get big enough, but we don't do that. So we'll grow at the speed that we grow. And honestly, I mean, you know, a month ago, I had like two people watching, and I think one of them might have been my mom for the first for the first few times because she's like, "I'll give you a viewer, right?" I'm like, "I think it's gonna be fine, mom." And now we're up to like 7 to 10 people watch the stream. I think on last Friday we had like 16 to 20 people at one time that were in here, so we'll get there. We'll get there. Uh, but you guys are the pioneers, pioneers. Right, Nick? Like if you don't have your mom watching you as an early support system, then what are you even doing? My mom's like, "What video do I have to like? Where do I have to watch? I don't understand anything you're talking about." And I'm like, "Well, you know, I expect that, mom. I don't think my mom's an order flow trader, but she watches the stream long enough. Who knows? Who knows what happens?" We won't forget you, Malik, for sure. You can hold the badge as the first person from Pakistan on the stream that I know of. That I know of. Yeah, so just kind of like this 185 area that we were kind of talking about as like a potential reoffer has just become the point of control and is just where the market is just kind of rotating around now. So that's still a trick that I like to keep in my repertoire, which is like, I'm interested in potentially shorting this level, like as we were coming up to it. And then we never got more than like a 30-point reaction off of it, a 20-point reaction off of it. And so to me, that just says profit taking, no real, there's not like a bunch of aggressive sellers here at 185, just like slapping it down. And so I didn't take a position here and it saved me some money. Yeah. Funny you say that, Malik, about the gambling thing. We had there's a short pretty close to the most recent shorts talking about how trading is gambling in a way. You know, it's not like casino and lights, but you still are kind of betting on outcomes. So, but yeah, I think my dad probably feels that way too. I think he thinks trading is gambling. And like to be honest, like I do too. It's just not the same as like, you know, casino. Malik, I've never been to Pakistan. The closest that I've been is I spent some time in Malaysia and Cambodia and Vietnam when I was in college, but never made it further west than that. But yes, I would love to come visit someday. All right, guys, I'm going to hang out for the last 5 minutes here. We'll go right to noon central. My OCD doesn't allow me to get out of here before the before the clock rolls over. But I'm not taking any more trades. So I'm gonna end up down 2R. We'll just recap real quick. We sold off really aggressively off the open, put in this buy imbalance down here right below 29K. Got below it, got above it, and then once we got below it, we rejected it once. And so I got short here, got about 20 to 30 points in our favor, not enough to take profit, got stopped on the rally, came back below, held below it for a few minutes again. So I reloaded just thinking we may have just got stop run, and they decided to run my stop again. And then after that, they have rallied price since then. So normal losing day for me, nothing crazy. Like I said multiple times on the way up, my goal is, if I'm wrong, is to be wrong small, and when I'm right, to be right big, and uh, you know, not to blow up the account. And we got nowhere close to that. So, um, yeah, stayed safe, followed my rules, took a couple small stops, and we'll be back again on Wednesday to hopefully be on the right side of price. If you haven't subscribed yet, feel free to do so. We will have the third episode of Rewind the Tape will be out later today. We'll probably upload it around 2 or 3 p.m. Central Time. That will be our third episode of Rewind the Tape, where we take a trade from the live stream and break it down. In this case, I'm actually breaking down one of the losers from last week. I always want to be really careful that I'm not just like, breaking down winners, because as we see on stream, I do take losers pretty frequently. So I don't ever want to give the impression that I'm in here just like, in God mode, taking perfect trades every time, because anybody that you see doing that, or anybody that tells you that they're doing that, is just lying to your face. So we try to keep the honesty on this channel super high, but would encourage you guys to watch that. Feel free to set your alerts so that you'll know um, when that video is uploaded. There's a link to our Discord in the description. That's free to join. And I think that's about it, guys. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Sorry it wasn't more exciting for the back half of the stream. We really tamped down that volatility. As a final warning, we do have the Treasury Secretary speaking in about an hour from now. I do expect a lot of volatility from that event, so please be safe. I would highly recommend not being in position at that point. Price could get very whippy, and there's also the chance that it might literally do nothing as well. But please have that on your radar for the afternoon. And we will be back at 8:30 on Wednesday. So we will see you guys then. Appreciate the continued support. You guys stay safe for the rest of the session. Cheers, guys.